Hello and welcome to another episode of Pakistonomy. My name is Uzair Yunus, and joining me today once more is Ariba Shahid. Ariba, for those of you who do not know, is a business journalist at Profit by Pakistan Today. She has been on the episode several times, and she's the person I call when I need a Mahir Maishat, an economic expert, to talk about what's going on in Pakistan and what the outlook is. So there's a lot that
No,
has
he needs.
happened over.
No, Zai, you're wrong. You call me in when you want people to laugh at what's happening.
When I want to make economics and business and what's going on in the economy more accessible to people, I call you because you do a great job at it. And there's a lot going on which I haven't touched upon. Usually we have more wonky conversations, and I figured this can be a catch up on what's going on in the economy, what the outlook is, how are people feeling, so to speak, in the market. So, Ariba, once again, welcome to Pakistanomy. आप बताएं कि क्या
Hi,
मईशत
thank you
में
for
क्या हो
having
रहा
me.
है कि there is good news coming up as well. There is record funding. There is overall what I'm seeing on social media that there's optimism. What's your top line take on how things are shaping up so far in 2021?
Things are things don't look very bad. They're okay, but like record funding se mujhe yaad aaya, you and I should definitely start our own startup because like बहुत पैसा आ रहा है Pakistan में, and this is like the best time because we're not over with the year yet, and we've already broken all records so far. मतलब, I think the funding that we raised in this year alone is more than the funding raised in 3 years combined. So it's a great year. It was I think of a startup. Let's make money.
Media startup. I think that's what we should do.
Sorry.
I said we should do a media startup, maybe.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what. Like, लोगों के पास बहुत पैसा है. VCs are really bullish about Pakistan as an emerging market right now. So it's a really good opportunity to, cash in.
But how do you feel about this? So, I mean, it's record funding is going into sectors like I also saw some people put out कि भाई airlift की जो valuation है या airlift ने जो पैसे raise किए हैं, it's fantastic stuff, it's super exciting. लेकिन that's like more than some or a significant proportion of some tech stocks that trade on the Pakistan Stock Exchange. So how do you combine the two? We're saying like, hey, there's a startup here which is growing rapidly, which is trying to disrupt the marketplace that gets a lot more funding than some publicly traded companies in the country.
I guess the thing is that each evaluations होती हैं, the market is very bullish. There's a lot of money out there in terms of the VCs that we see. So the valuations, they could be more than what the company stands at the moment. But again, our PSX, हमारे पास कितनी tech companies हैं on the stock market? So there's that. And are they as different or as new age as these companies are coming up? So there are lots of things to look at this in this way. But yeah, valuations काफी अच्छी आ रही है. मतलब मजाक से हट के, you wouldn't like 2 years ago you wouldn't think of this, especially not during the pandemic. But अब तो चीजें are normaling out as well. So that's good.
How do you? This is a question I've had over the last couple of weeks when this came to my mind once again, and I figured I ask you: is this like when I was coming out of undergrad and my generation of people, Pakistan में जो थे IBA गए, लम्स गए वगैरह वगैरह, they were like यार एंग्रो में काम करेंगे, PNG, Unilever, किसी बैंक के अंदर, right? Those were the good jobs. Like अगर आप graduate हो रहे हो
Yeah.
और एंग्रो से ऑफर आई है तो लोग कह रहे हो अरे एंग्रो से ऑफर आई है इसको तो जबरदस्त मतलब it's a set है life set है. Then there was a period के आप McKinsey पे हैं या करीम पे, there was initial थोड़ा बहुत था कि कंसल्टिंग साइड पे चले गए या आप जो हैं करीम वाज अ बिग थिंग. But now there is going to be serious competition, right? Even when you talk to startup funders, they say कि talent का मसला है. But I was just wanted to get your thought on how does that then shape up the labor market for top talent in the country? Because now Engros of the world and Telenor and Jazz and the banks of the Pakistani economy will have to compete with Airlift or other people who are smart and who said they're going to do their own startup because there's funding coming in. How do you see that shaping things up on the labor side?
So like at IBA, for instance, the most sought after jobs are Unilever, PNG, Philip Morris, and that. Like these companies pay like, in terms of local, like in terms of these companies pay relatively higher than the counterparts. Of course, McKinsey वगैरह तो है, लेकिन batch में एक बंदे का भी होता है तो बहुत बड़ी बात होती है. So these jobs were sought after and are still sought after. I'm not going to say that they're not sought after, but the fact is that like आज से 3 साल पहले, 4 साल पहले, maybe even 2 years ago, when you would tell someone that you're working at a startup, they would be like, why not something big? Like, why not, cash in the university name and work for a big corporation? But now it's quite different. People are actually excited to work at a startup to see it grow. And especially I feel that Kareem had a lot to do with this because of the Kareem mafia that's going on as well. So you work at a startup and then after a few years, you come up with your own. So that I think Kareem mafia has been a game changer, to be very honest. So there's that. But yeah, these companies, these major corporations, जहाँ पे हम लोग सोचते थे यहाँ हम जाएंगे job करेंगे, they would make you go through like 6 steps, like an IQ test, an EQ test, a game, an assessment center, an interview, another interview. So like there would be 6 steps, and then you get a job. And these startups, they're young, they're fresh, they're different. You don't have to deal with corporate bureaucracy. You could be a leader at a very young stage in your life as well. So काफी competition है because पहले the common mentality of a Pakistani person was कि पहले तो ये होता था कि government job ढूंढो. अब वो change होके हो गया था कि private job की तरफ भी जा सकते हो. अब private job में पहले था कि go for a big multinational, लेकिन उसको या bank. अब उसके बाद अब आ रहा है कि startups are not bad. So I think this is really cool. And at the same time, I also feel कि the startup space that we have in Pakistan is primarily dominated by people that are coming back from, their undergrads or their postgrads in the US or whatever country.
Wapistani,
yeah. But like, not all of them call themselves Wapistani. Sabko savior complex nahi hota. So what I'm trying to say is, बचाने आ रहे हैं, हम सब डूब रहे हैं, वो हमें बचाने आ रहे हैं. But my point is that I would be really happy if I see startups emerging from within Pakistan, like some IBA grad, some KU grad, LUMS grad, CBM, Zabist, ICRA, wherever. And I'd be really excited to wo funding of raise kind of because all these people that are raising funding, I'm not saying that they don't deserve funding, but also they come from a very privileged background with the right CV, with the right credentials. But I would love to see someone locally also rising up, so that फिर ये हो जाएगा कि not only will people be willing to work for startups, people will also be willing to start their own startups. So that's something I want to see. I'm really hoping for that.
What do you think is like, if you were, let's sort of speculate or just talk about this a little bit more. What's the barrier for a 21-year-old coming out of an IBA or a CBM or a LUMS? In terms of being like, what, I'm gonna do my own thing. I have an idea, I'm gonna take it to market and test it out. Like, what do you think are the big sort of issues that may tell them that what, this is not the right thing to do?
The environment. So a lot of the people that have started their own startups and they've raised funding, they, like I said, वो बाहर से वापस आते हैं. वहाँ पे they've either studied under a teacher that had their own startup, or we're in the society where starting up is not bad. And then there's also another thing. For instance, if let's say I start a startup, all right, and I find it very difficult to pay my bills at the same time. So if I were in a country abroad, I'd be willing to like wait tables at a cafe or a burger joint, right? And in Pakistan, you find that very difficult to do because
also in those markets you would have access to credit the way you don't have in Pakistan.
Exactly. And the thing is that another thing is that these people, like let's say an IBA grad, or hamare courses, the university level courses that you study, they're essentially made in a way to make you a corporate slave. The whole process of your education is essentially defined in such a way that you turn into a corporate slave by the time you're done with your undergrad. So there's very little disruption within the course itself to make you, do that. And then moving on, it's, your access to founders, your access to VCs, your access to funding, that's very difficult as well. And again, when you're from a privileged background, फिर ये होता है कि someone who went to school with someone who got funding from someone, or you've managed to find a link. Cold emails do work, but people in Pakistan underestimate the impact of cold emails. I would say there's that. And again, हमारी वही mentality अभी तक थोड़ी है कि government job is safe. क्या कहते हैं, गाड़ी लो तो Suzuki लो और fridge लो तो National लो. तो we are a very risk averse nation regardless. So startup culture जब तक नहीं आएगा तब तक you don't want to take risks head on.
हमें जमीन में प्लॉट लेने का, प्लॉट की फाइल और सोना लेने का शौक है ना for investments. That's sums it up.
Unless आपके पास घर नहीं है और unless आपकी बेटी के पास चूड़ियां नहीं है, you wasted your life.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but your point around before I lose my thought on this, your point around the fact that you are actually, now I lost my train of thought. What I was getting at. What were you? There's something interesting you said. But anyway, it'll come back to me. But okay, so this is exciting. Things are happening. I think it's great. Yeah. I think if there's more money coming in, even at crazy valuations, the better, because it'll actually create a competition in the market. And out of these, let's say 50 startups, 45 fail and 5 go on to succeed and transform the old economy into a new economy. I think the impact will be huge. So we should celebrate it. And I think that's something. Oh, I got the thought back. Cold emails. You're so right. I was talking to somebody 2 weeks ago, and I was on vacation, and they had said, they want to chat about something. I said, yeah, sure. Let's chat. The time we had initially agreed upon did not work. And then I never heard back from them. And then finally it came to my mind when I came back from vacation. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to reach out to this person. Like that, I canceled last minute, blah, blah, blah. So I was talking to them and I told them this. I was like, why didn't you follow up with me? And their response was, I thought that you're busy and I didn't want to bother you and blah, blah. I was like, look, it's an email, and your email came to, I replied to you initially. Even if I had not, sometimes emails get buried. You should at least reach out to me twice or thrice. I would say the rule should be reach out to somebody 3 times, keep it very short in terms of your ask, propose a time, ask for 15 minutes that you want to talk about a specific thing, come prepared to that talk. But if they don't reply to you, email them again and then email them again. Agar teesri dafa mein jawab nahi aaya, then this person not bothered. But you're so right. Like, some of the best relationships I have today are with people that I was in grad school and I just cold emailed them a couple of times and then they said, sure, let's have a coffee. This was pre-pandemic, or let's chat on the phone, because there was no Zoom. But with Zoom even now, like, people are open to chatting all the time. So you're so right about that.
I remember when I was in my O levels, I just did my O levels and I really wanted to intern somewhere. And I didn't have, like, I belong to a family where we don't have connections. Okay? Unko call karo, wo tumhari internship lagwa denge. I come from such a family. So what I did is I sent out cold emails to a bunch of banks and a bunch of financial institutions. And I got a call back from one. I sent a follow-up as well. So I sent an email and I sent a follow-up email and I got a call back. And I thought to myself at that point, okay, cold emails do work. Like, you can send out 10 cold emails. The chances of one person responding is still there. And that's what happens. And yahan pe, what I've noticed is that people don't really cold email people at all. And that is a fundamental flaw within, within the system. And you're absolutely right. That is something that's wrong. And we need to work on that.
And I think younger people.
I remember one time during, when I was doing my research project at IBA, I cold emailed Dr. Ishrat, who was the dean of IB. And I was like, hi, Dr. Ishrat, I can't find a research supervisor. Do you want to be my research supervisor? He said no. He replied. But the fact is, what if, like, I'd gone on and I'd been like, gosh, Dr. Ishrat ne pooch leti. At least now I know he didn't want to, or he couldn't, or that wasn't his specialty. But, like, you lose all the chances you don't take.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Moving on to other stuff. Fiscal deficit, the numbers came in. Let's talk about some more macroeconomic stuff. And maishat ka kya bura haal hai, Imran Khan ki hukumat ne tabah barbad nahi. We're not going to go down that route. That's TV talk show stuff. Just joking. But the fiscal deficit came in north of 7% of GDP. That's not great news for Pakistan. What do you think?
It could have been worse. That's all I'm going to say. I mean,
that's true.
It's not, it could have been way worse. Like, way worse. But it's as in did as in this is not unexpected. Like, you know, it's not like a really random number that came out. So there's that.
But do you see that? I mean, of course, it was a pandemic year and we had to spend, and tax collection was down, blah, blah, blah. The new tax collection figures are looking positive. LSM is up. There's momentum sort of building in the economy.
मुझे थोड़ा सा इस पे भी हो रहा है कि अभी we have like zero petroleum levy and we reduced the GST on the petrol prices as well, or international prices. तो लग नहीं रहा कि दोबारा कुछ हो सकेगा. So there's also that. उस तरह से revenue मुझे काफी कम लग रहा है.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I have you on and we talk about sort of what's going on and what might happen in the future, uska ulta hi ho jata hai. But so I'll ask once more.
I'm going to touch wood this time.
Yeah, touch wood this time. But from your point of view, covering everything that happens on a daily basis, 2.5, 3 years into this government's tenure, do you seem that they finally have some sort of grip on things, or is it still like, I'm confused? I'm legitimately asking this question because I'm confused, because at some levels it seems that they have a grip, but then you hear कि एक और SAPM जो है वो resign कर गए because he didn't get along with the finance minister, and there's another LNG crisis brewing because there's another FSRU issue popping up for September. So I'm genuinely confused and would love your thoughts on, like, are they sort of getting a grip on things, or is this more of the same?
If we talk about economics and if we talk about political as well, a major problem for this government has been and is still inflation. It's somewhat manageable, and in the sense that it isn't rising rapidly right now, but that remains a problem, and that's something the government has not been able to control at all throughout. So that remains a concern, and that is a major failure of the government in the sense that 3 years कुछ तो control आ चुका होता. There's that. But on the other hand, there are lots of ways that the government is doing the right thing. Things are going fairly okay. Like my macroeconomic indicators during a pandemic could have been south, like terribly south, but they're moderately stable. So there's that as well. As far as the SAPMs and the finance ministry is concerned, honestly, मुझे finance ministry का कुछ नहीं समझ आता. कौन आ रहा है, कौन जा रहा है. I don't think Shaukat Tareen is going to last till the election either. I have a feeling he's going to take leave as well. But that's just me. He may stay. I don't think he will. As far as
कोई अंदर की खबर तो नहीं है आपको?
नहीं, मेरे पास कोई finance ministry में कोई मुझसे बात ही नहीं करता.
Yeah, this can be a headline, by the way. Like a senior economic journalist tells Pakistanomy Shaukat Tareen may be on his way out. Headline.
I don't think he's gonna stay. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think he's gonna stay. And जब वो चले जाएंगे, I don't know who's gonna step in. But as far as SAPMs are concerned, a lot of people that worked with Hafiz Sheikh have left the finance ministry. Like I know 2 or 3 people that have. I don't really know if it's because Hafiz Sheikh brought them in. I don't really know. But it could be because Hafiz Sheikh brought them in and they don't want to work with someone else. So that could be a reason. Shaukat Tareen, from what I've heard about him, is a very headstrong person, and he does what he wants. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. That's up to you to decide. So SAPMs may or may not get along with him.
I mean,
as well.
he said that himself on Shahid Khanzada the other day. I saw a clip where he was asked a specific question about reports that the SAPM resigned because he didn't get along with you, and he was diplomatic to an extent, but then said what he had to say, which was basically that our working styles were not the same and we were not getting along, and so we decided mutually that he had to leave. My guess is that, and again I'm speculating, is that Shaukat Tareen Saab said either it's him or it's me. You decide. And I think somebody was like, nahi, aap rahe, because again, nobody wants another finance minister leaving. Yeah, because like we want another finance minister leave. Exactly. So ab SAPM badal dete hain because it's less costly. So I think I'm again speculating, but I can totally imagine that that's how that conversation went at some level. Was like, या मैं रहूंगा या वो रहेंगे, और डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा कि मैं चले जाता हूँ, या उनको कहा गया कि आप चले जाएं और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को रहने दें.
I mean, we lose SAPMs and minister. मतलब ऐसे बदल रहे होते हैं कि it's guy. Sometimes it's really difficult to keep track. कौन अभी परसों someone was talking to me about Shibli Faraz and his the voting machine, right? And फिर मुझे एक मिनट तक ये हुआ यार, isn't he Minister of Information? And then why isn't Fawad Chaudhry doing this? And I was like, oh shit, हाँ थोड़े दिन पहले ही तो बदले हैं ये दोनों, दोबारा अदली बदली किया है
Yeah, Fawad Chaudhry is now doing the Media Regulatory Authority, and he's moved on from election machines. So he's got a new portfolio. So a new program.
I mean, it's like it's sometimes it's really hard to keep track कि कौन कहाँ है, and it's just like, you know, like Hamad Azhar, I think he's changed like 3 ministries so far. Am I right?
I think not to use the cricketing analogy, but this is exactly like the PCB of the late 90s and the early 2000s के अभी debut कराया, यासिर हमीद ने debut किया, 200 रन बनाए, then out for duck, another duck and dropped, and then Imran Nazir comes in, and then Imran Nazir makes some runs and somebody else comes in. I think that's how it's operating in a way, which it's not good. Particularly
I would say कि इमरान खान जो है ना, वो जो है ना अब सिर्फ फील्डिंग चेंज करें, तुम इधर खड़े हो, तुम उधर खड़े हो, तुमने कैच ड्रॉप किया, तुम इधर जाओ.
स्क्वाड में इतने ही लोग हैं ना, और कहाँ से लाएंगे नए स्क्वाड मेंबर्स? After some time you run out of squad members as well.
No, and then when you run out of squad members, you get your ex-foreign minister to defend you on CNN.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, oh, by the way, she did a stellar job. She did a stellar job, right?
I've always been a Hina Rabbani Khair fan. I may or may not agree with her party, but I agree with her as a person, and she did a stellar job. Like, you know, that was brilliant. She's always articulate. I don't think I've ever heard something go wrong by her. Like, I'm absolutely a fan.
No, she talks as in a way that foreign ministers should speak, right? Yes. Very measured, take every word very carefully, do not slip, do not take the bait.
You do not say ha ha ha, pockets.
Deep pockets, yes. Like, let's not go there. मेरे पास एक और Twitter troll campaign start हो जाएगी जो हुई थी last time. But she was amazing, and I think not to but I mean, we should definitely talk about it. I was surprised at how many PTI fans were like all about her that day when she gave that interview. It was like,
of course, no. Lekin jab wo burai karegi, so they're all going to be like, oh my God, she sucks. There's that. But like generally, there are some people from all parties that should be respected regardless, because how they conduct themselves. So I think Hina Rabbani Khair from PPP is one. Ehsas Program is one person that I feel from PPP is someone that you should actually like, who I would count on.
PTI se kaun hai?
PTI se I would say Imran Khan.
Who's the bridge builder in that party is a real question. Like, you know, you're right. Even in DC here, like, you have some politicians like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez who are like flamethrowers, right? They will cause uproars, or Rand Paul, or, you know, these types of people. But then there are people who will bring everyone together, right? The Mitt Romneys of the world, or the Chuck Schumers of the world, who will have the meeting, slap your back, sit down, have coffee, वगैरह. So I mean, you're right. Khair Sahiba is one. I think Qamar Zaman Kaira is another from the PPP. Yeah. Mifta Ismail is one from the PML. Yes. And from the PTI, I'm actually thinking, like, I'm legitimately thinking who is the bridge builder there. Parvez Khattak has played the role of bridge builder in the past. Jahangir Tareen, when he was sort of in the good books.
Jahangir Tareen is hands down the guy for this. But अब मुझे नहीं पता वो ये खेलेंगे या नहीं खेलेंगे. But Jahangir Tareen, like, when you think about this, you would think of Jahangir Tareen. Who else would you think of?
Shibli Faraz? No, not really. He doesn't. He's
I would think Fawad Chaudhry brings up fights, but at the same time, Fawad Chaudhry की सारी party से दोस्ती भी है, because वो सारी party से घूम करके आए.
That is true. He has relationships.
And plus, Fawad Chaudhry is the type of guy जो अपनी party stand से भी कभी कभार हट के, he would stand for what he thinks is right. Like, I still respect his stance for the Atif Mia thing, regardless of how the party did not back it. So there are a few things that, like, I think Fawad Chaudhry would be one guy.
And he
So
takes unpopular stands when he needs to,
yeah,
particularly when it comes to issues related to social and cultural norms or religious issues. He's always outspoken about
I
that,
would
which
prefer
to his
him to
credit.
be our I would prefer him to be our, human rights minister instead of Shri Mazari, who literally just tweets all day. दूसरे
Yeah,
मुल्कों के मसले पे.
दूसरे मुल्कों के बारे में. That's the bigger problem. But
मतलब,
I mean,
I don't mind you pointing out flaws in other countries if you run a really tight ship. That's it. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't say someone else's house is dirty if I live in a pigsty myself.
Yeah, no, I mean that's true. I mean, people when living in glass homes should not throw stones, right?
Yes.
That's the thing. But I mean, before I mean, abhi comments aane lag jayenge. You are all anti-PTI, blah blah blah. So let's switch to some things they've done really well. One thing I want to talk to you about and get your take on is this Kamyab Jawan program. I think it is on paper,
Vaccinations.
vaccinations and Kamyab. Okay, let's start with vaccinations. Let's start with that. They've done a stellar job.
Yeah,
NCOC has done
it's
an amazing job. What do
amazing.
you?
It's amazing. It's like I don't know if your family if you know the process. It's super easy. पहले तो जब शुरू में था तो you message, you get a center, you go to your center. उस दिन क्योंकि you get a center and you go on that day, तो you know कि rush इतना नहीं है. And then you open 24-hour centers, and then it's beautiful because in the sense that we live in a third world country जहाँ पे access to medication is really difficult as well. वहाँ पे you're vaccinating on a large scale, better than a lot of countries, absolutely free, absolutely easy to get. I love it. And उसके अलावा आप मोबाइल भेज रहे हो इलाके इलाके, and I know सिंध गवर्नमेंट भी कर रही है, पंजाब गवर्नमेंट भी कर रही है, फेडरल भी कर रही है, मतलब प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट्स भी कर रही हैं और वो भी हो रहा है फेडरल लेवल पे. But it's absolutely beautiful because the vaccination process is seamless. It's great. My only concern is that there are lots of people that are undocumented and don't have CNICs. उन तक पहुंचना. So I feel after a point it should also become like जैसे पोलियो वाले घर घर जाते हैं उस तरह से ये भी एक शुरू हो जाना चाहिए. And इस तरह से maybe you could do like 2 birds 1 stone and you could do a census again in Karachi का census दोबारा करवा दें इस तरह से. So you could do that and also vaccinate people. पैसे बचाए ना, do 2 in 1 thing.
ये तुमने मुत्तहिदा कौमी मूवमेंट का टॉकिंग पॉइंट जो है ना घुसा दिया वैक्सीन के साथ.
ये मैं महाजिर हूँ.
Farooq Sattar से लिफाफे आए हैं आपको. But on a very serious note, they've done a stellar job with vaccines. Kudos to them. The other thing, they've done a stellar job in both intent and work, and it's still ongoing. And I'm super excited about where it's gone. Is where they've taken the Benazir Income Support Program, converted it to Ehsas, although it's still legally BISP. People don't like hearing that, but that's what it is. But Ehsas and what Dr. Sania Nishtar is doing there and trying to do there is phenomenal work. And again, the role that program played during the early months of the pandemic and since then is just amazing, right? It saved a lot of lives. It's helped a lot of people. Countless families have benefited from it. And I think there, you have to give credit to Imran Khan and the fact that at the prime minister level, he truly, truly has empathy for those who don't have privilege, and he has tasked his government to do something about it.
Absolutely. A lot of I know a few people that worked with him in terms of ये जो ads वगैरह बन रहे होते थे कामयाब जवान program के, sorry, ये एहसास program के उसके. So they used to tell me कि that you can actually see legit concern on this. So that when such an issue happens, there are two ways that a prime minister could think, yeah, I'm going to lose popularity, or oh my God, lives are at risk, right? So they're like, you couldn't. He wasn't concerned about his political standing at that point. Maybe he was, but his major concern at that point was saving lives and livelihoods, which is something that I actually appreciate because the amount of empathy shown and all right, एक होता है cash handout देना, and I've often seen national savings center की जो offices होते हैं उसके बाहर सुबह लंबी line.
Pensioners खड़े होते हैं line में. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that happen, right? And then you see the way the Ehsas program में पैसे मिले. You see women like Sania Nishtar going above and beyond. disguising themselves as a normal person to see how good the process is. You see them doing that. You see them giving money to people that actually need money at that point in time, and you see them doing that with respect, with grace. They're not, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best things that this government has done. It's one of the things that is a saving grace for this government, and is one of the things that is actually so. A lot of supporters of PTI are also annoyed by a lot of things that have happened in the government. But the one saving grace, which trumps a lot of things that have gone wrong, is the Ehsas program, which is brilliant. And the way that the state bank also went in overdrive to help businesses, that's also brilliant. We all know I'm a Raza Pakistan, which I shouldn't be openly saying because I'm a journalist, but the state bank working with the government, making the payment process easy, giving out loans to people that need it, turf, things like that have been brilliant. They've done their job. It's absolutely wonderful. So the government did a great job, and not denying it, Imran Khan, as a leader, he may not have control on a lot of things the way they should. His heart is in the right place. And you can't deny that. His heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, I think
log
अच्छे नहीं मिले, but it's also like, it also goes to show the success of the NCOC, the Vaccination Drive, Ehsas Program. It goes to show that when the government and the state of Pakistan empowers smart, driven people to do the right thing, they can and do deliver, right? There is a very I think, and I'm guilty of it at times as well, that very, very critical all the time, and that creates a very negative mindset about कि सब कुछ ही बुरा है और काफी कुछ बुरा है, no doubt about it. But there are things that when you empower people like Dr. Sania Nistar, you create an institution like NCOC, you may see the daily fighting between the PPP and the PTI and the PMLN on talk shows. But at the NCOC level, they do work together and they do come together. That is the brilliance of an institution, right? That was set up, a framework that is sustaining a very important task and conducting a very important task that is important national security, I would argue, vaccinating people and keeping this pandemic at bay. So it does work, and I think it reassures people that things can and do happen in the country. I think the third one that I want to talk about, it's not been implemented yet, is Kamyab Jawan. It's on paper yet, but Shaukat Tariq Sahab is talking about it a lot. I think it has huge potential. Wanted to get your thoughts on how do you see that coming up?
Imran Khan may be in his 70s or late 60s. I don't really know how old he is. Lagte to 50s ke hain, wo alag baat hai. But my point is, he has a lot of emphasis on the youth, which is showing. The Kamyab Jawan program is brilliant. And to be very honest, I'm going to compare this with the PMLN program, where they were giving laptops.
Which was also brilliant.
That program was highly criticized. But I personally know a lot of people that didn't, like IBM, say, somewhat of a privileged place, jahan pe they did not have laptops. Say, they're CS students, they did not have laptops, and they got laptops through that program, and they were able to complete their education. Not having a laptop or a computer in this day and age, it holds you back from all of your classmates. So that itself was a great program. So anything youth-centric is brilliant, and I fully support it. So the Kamyab Jawan program, if implemented the way it's supposed to be implemented and targeting the right crowd, is great, and I wish them really good luck. So I like this. So this is an example of forward thinking, in the sense that you're killing two birds, one stone. One, the youth is potentially Imran Khan's voter base. वो कहते थे ना कि मेरे अभी voter बड़े नहीं हुए, अब वो बड़े हो गए. So this is like one thing, is that you're keeping them engaged. Two, the multiplier effect of this will be shown in the next 2 to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So it's like thinking long. So I think it's great. I absolutely think it's great. The only thing I don't really like going on lately is like our obsession with expats. Sorry, Uzair.
No, I fully endorse that. I mean, it's like कि आप overseas पाकिस्तानियों को subsidized interest rate दे रहे हैं गाड़ी खरीदने के लिए, आप उनको अभी नए घर बनाने के लिए subsidies दे रहे हैं. I think it's unnecessary. But I think the intent even
it's consumption driven. अब घर का चलो I still understand कि बंदा पता है ये होता है कि आजकल it's a common saying पाकिस्तान में रहते हुए अपना घर बनाना बहुत मुश्किल है तो कोई बाहर जाता है तो उसके लिए घर बनाना बहुत आसान होता है because you convert the money. So I understand that because in पाकिस्तान के culture में ये you need a घर. So there's that. गाड़ी वाला I don't think is a good thing to do because one, there are already too many cars on the roads. Two, the automobile manufacturers do not need any more support. Three, it's consumption-led growth. And this money, in a way, leads to more imports as well because we import a substantial amount of, car products.
Yeah, and it's not going to lead to any indirect investment activity in the economy.
No contribution in the sense that maybe इसको देख के एक और plant आ जाएगा पाकिस्तान में. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's the only economic contribution I can think of. But like the state bank, from what I see, they just want to bring in money. अब पैसे लाने के तरीके और सोच रहे हैं वो.
लाने के और वो सोच रहे हैं किस तरह उसको इकोनॉमी में डिप्लॉय किया जाए. And I think they've gone again for the short-term view on consumption versus directing it to investment.
And now there's also a loyalty program where you get points when you send money to Pakistan.
Remittances, yeah, which I think is good. That one I agree with, and okay. I've done some work with clients on remittances and what's going on in the global remittance economy. I think that's really good because it formalizes and keeps people into the formal system. Yeah. We need more of that, which is why remittances are going up, and they need to go up even more.
Yeah. We need it. Long story short, we do need remittances, but the state bank should think of ways that are sustainable and they're good for the country while bringing in remittances. So the car, I will, regardless of what happens, I will never be on board with Roshan Apni car. I may or may not be on board with the other schemes regarding remittances, but Roshan Apni car will never have my vote. Yeah. Never, unless मैं गाड़ी ले रही हूँ.
आपको कोई भेजेगा फंडिंग बाहर से लिफाफे आएंगे तो then you can get a car.
No, you need your mom, dad, sibling, husband, wife or child. तो मेरा तो कोई सीन नहीं बन रहा अभी.
एक ऑप्शन है सिर्फ. You have one option. Find husband abroad. Husband will buy a car.
Husband will buy Audi.
Yeah, exactly.
Husband will buy Audi.
That's the car. But I think on the Kamyab Jawan program, we started this conversation with startups, right? The barriers to startups. Why is somebody who's 21-year-old unable to chase their dream ideas, launch a business? And I think one thing that we also need to encourage people is like startups is not just tech-based startups. Warby Parker was a startup some time ago, just chashme banate the. Atoms, a Pakistani founded brand. Atoms? Yeah. Atoms shoe company, that's a startup. So Kamyab Jawan may enable some of that.
Pakistan, when you think of startups, there are two startups I think of. One, e-commerce, two, fintech. And yeah, that's it. And I haven't really covered fintechs, so I don't really know about them. But e-commerce consumer acquisition costs are really high. They're unsustainable in the sense unless you don't spend on acquiring customers, you don't really have customers, and I find them very unsustainable, and I don't see them running long term unless they have like proper financing from their VCs. So there's that. But startups when we think of startups, we think of tech, and that is not what a startup is. A startup is a business that you set up from scratch. It's a small business. You've set it up. It's a start up, and you plan to scale it as time goes on. So Atoms is one example. And I hope the Kamyab Jawan program brings out such startups. We may soon have like a local watch brand that is huge, or a local glasses brand that's huge, or who knows?
Athletic brand. We should have an athletics brand that is huge.
Mangoes. We should have mango brands that sell our mangoes as products, like God knows what. Mango cotton candy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, achari mango lollipops. That's, imagine that.
Like I've seen so many women during the lockdown. They've started so many of So many Instagram businesses have popped up in 1 year. I've seen so many people become home chefs, so many people become bakers and making candles at home, arts and crafts, which are raising tables with, trays hoti hain, wo ban rahi hain. There's so many things that have come up, and these are all startups as well. But since they don't fall in the technology phase, we don't consider them. But these are also startups. As in, it's really nice that during the pandemic, a lot of people thought out of the box as well, and it's interesting to see. And I hope they achieve scale and they grow.
I think we need to encourage these businesses to scale because, I mean, just think about it, right? Warby Parker, chashme, $100 ke chashme bechte the, they're gearing up for an IPO. It's amazing. It's the beauty of capitalism, right? That a couple of kids coming out of college said, you know what, we're going to sell glasses directly to the consumer. And oh, by the way, you get 5 free delivered to your home to try them on, and then you send them back and buy the one that you like. And that business has scaled up to a point that it's going to go public and tap money from the public equity market. That should be the dream. And I think programs like Kamyab Jawan, as they scale up, should aspire to, their North Star should be that we want to birth in the next decade 5 of the hottest public limited companies in Pakistan. That's the North Star, right? And if we can do that, if we can achieve just even 2 out of the 5 as our North Star goal in the next decade, I think it transforms the country. That's what the goal should be.
Absolutely.
So I think this has been a great conversation, Ariba. Once again,
positive, no?
It ended on a positive note and a futuristic note, which is always good. I think like that's what we should do. And there are a lot of problems we can always talk about, but it's more important to talk about solving those problems. And I think focusing on younger people, empowering them, giving people access to credit through the government programs, giving them laptops, giving them the tools of the modern digital age. They'll figure out the rest. Just give them the tools is my view on it. So
internet, give them internet. Let there be free internet.
Yep. Put down fiber optic cables, let there be free internet, and give people laptops and smartphones. You will transform the country.
Every student should have free internet. Every student has free internet. That would be brilliant. So no, absolutely. Last year as well, when we did this half yearly thingy, we ended really positive. So I'm touching wood again, and I hope whatever we said, things go well. But and things, like I said, they're not really bad. They're just not amazing, right?
And I agree with you. The point you made that inflation is the Achilles heel of this party, of this government right now. They need to get a grip on it.
I still stand by this, that if the government gets inflation, like not even 100% in control, brings it down to half the number it is right now. Not even half, let's say
under 7% le aaye, 7-8% ke andar le aaye.
7% le aaye, the interest rate is now, we have a 0% real interest rate, right? Just bring it to that, and I'd say people would start being content. And they would have a chance at it. So we have, and this is not really economics, but like we've moved on to a point where single party nation hone ka kafi chances ho sakte hain in the next election, other than for Sindh. So if you discount Sindh, Balochistan, KPK, Punjab, Gilgit, Kashmir, there's a chance that PTI wins again, right? So, keeping that in mind, if they get the inflation bit done as well, maybe 2 elections down the cycle, we may have God knows what, honestly, God knows what, but a single party system has been emerging lately.
Ariba has come out in favor of a hybrid pro-PTI stand here. And on that note, that she is pro-PTI agent coming on Pakistanomy. This is my balancing act. When I wanna, have a pro-PTI slant, I get Ariba. No, I'm just joking. Ariba's always...
The thing is, I'm so confused because when I'm on Twitter, people think I'm anti-PTI, and then they go like, you're pro-PTI. Some people go like, aapko PTV pe iske bulate hain because aap PTI ki tareef karti hain. Phir the next day I say something and people go like, aapko PTI ki kabhi koi tareef nazar nahi aati hai. And I don't know what to do.
So see, my rule of thumb on all of this is that if you're getting criticized from all angles every once in a while, you're doing the right job.
Yeah. And there's no lie that I like Imran Khan, the cricketer. So maybe it might transcend into Imran Khan, the Prime Minister sometimes. I'm not going to deny that, but I try to keep myself as balanced as possible. So I try to comment on policies rather than him as a person.
Yeah, and I think that's what we should do, right? That's the whole goal of this podcast. Talk about policy, criticize policy when it's wrong, support it when it's great. Remember chatting.
One question before we're done. Do you think we're going to have a new finance minister before the PTI government ends?
Yeah, we will.
कौन होगा?
I don't know कौन होगा, लेकिन कोई ना कोई तो होगा, because I don't think Shaukat Tareen are lasting through the election.
If I put you on the point, who do you think? Name one person.
I think Asad Umar will return as finance minister before this is over.
If that happens, it'd be like, Asad Umar, like, and let's say inflation की control थोड़ी हो जाती Asad Umar like, yo, look, I saved
the Dark Knight, the Dark Knight Returns wala scene hoga, yeah, Batman Returns.
I saved it. Saved it.
But I think there will be a new finance minister. I'm just putting it out there. Maybe Asad Umar, who the hell knows? Depends on where things go.
And maybe, and जब तक नहीं मिलता, Hamad Azhar could hold the seat for like
a day. एक दिन के लिए, 2 दिन. वो transit में plane रोकता है ना दुबई में, तो Hamad Azhar is like the transit minister.
You've seen the movie, no? जिसमें अनिल कपूर होता है जो एक दिन का CM बन जाता है. You should try being the finance minister for a day.
For a day, yeah, exactly. That's where it goes to. But I think on the policy angle, right? I mean, I was gonna say before we conclude, like, that's what we should be doing, and we know we talked a lot about it at length when there was the State Bank Amendment Act. We supported it. The government did not have the spine to put it in front of Parliament. I still think they should. I still think there is room to strengthen the autonomy of the state bank. And there are people within the PTI who like it. There are people within the PTI who don't like it. And there are people outside who like it and who don't like it. And I think we should be having debate on policy, not on personality. That's how it should be.
Exactly. Absolutely. So you can like or dislike someone, but their policies or their actions could be up for debate.
Fully agree. And on that bombshell, Ariba, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure having you. We'll have you back again in a few months. Maybe, who knows, finance minister change हो जाएगा, उस वक्त तक फिर हम बात करेंगे.
अगर finance minister change हुआ तो फिर मुझे बुलाइएगा.
नहीं, लेकिन हम जो बात करते हैं उसका उलट होता है, तो हमने कहा है कि change होगा तो मतलब नहीं होगा. That's the prediction.
नहीं होगा. You guys, Shaukat Tareen should now like take a sigh of relief. अब तो मैं ही रहूँगा.
I'm safe and secure. But thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Talk later.
Bye.
Khuda Hafiz.